Imagine a time when Egypt was not yet the grand civilization we know today, but a nascent kingdom, still finding its identity and its strength. This was the era of Djer, a king whose legacy is as complex as it is significant. Around 3050 BCE, Djer ascended to the throne during the first dynasty of ancient Egypt, following in the footsteps of his predecessor, Narmer, the legendary unifier of Upper and Lower Egypt. But while Narmer may have laid the foundation, it was Djer who began to build upon it, setting the stage for Egypt's rise to greatness. Djer, likely Narmer's son or grandson, inherited a kingdom in its infancy, a land still merging its many parts into a cohesive whole. This was no easy task. Egypt was a land of diverse peoples, each with its customs, dialects, and local rulers. To rule effectively, Djer had to unify not just through conquest, but through culture and law, through a shared identity. And this is where Djer's genius began to show. In his time, Djer embarked on what can be seen as one of Egypt's earliest attempts at statecraft. He established administrative practices that helped centralize authority in the hands of the king, and laid down an early form of government. His reign was marked by efforts to strengthen the political and cultural unity of Egypt, bringing the newly unified land closer under the central power of the Pharaoh. It is said that Djer's administration organized labor forces to build monumental structures, setting a precedent for the grand architectural projects that Egypt would become famous for in later years. Djer's efforts to consolidate power were not merely a matter of military strength or political maneuvering. They were also cultural and spiritual. He understood that to truly unify a diverse and ancient land like Egypt, he had to establish a sense of common purpose, a shared identity. One way Djer sought to do this was through religion, by promoting a state religion and associating himself closely with the gods, particularly Horus, the falcon-headed deity often seen as the protector of the pharaohs. Djer positioned himself not only as a political leader, but as a spiritual one. This move was crucial in legitimizing his rule, and in creating a unified Egyptian identity that went beyond regional loyalties. But there was more to Djer's rule than mere symbolism. His reign also saw the beginnings of what would become a complex system of government, where the pharaoh was not just a king, but also the head of a bureaucratic state. Djer initiated the practice of appointing royal officials to oversee various parts of his kingdom, a significant step toward a more centralized administration. These officials, often chosen from the royal family or trusted nobles, were responsible for maintaining order, collecting taxes, and managing agricultural production, the backbone of Egypt's economy. This move towards a more structured governance helped solidify Djer's control over Egypt's vast and varied territories. One of the most notable aspects of Djer's reign was his military campaigns. As a young kingdom, Egypt still faced threats from neighboring regions, and internal strife was always a possibility. Djer was not just a ruler, but a warrior king. He led military expeditions to secure Egypt's borders and expand its influence, particularly in the Sinai Peninsula. These campaigns were critical, not only for defending his kingdom, but also for securing valuable trade routes and resources, a key to Egypt's economic strength. Evidence from inscriptions and early Egyptian records suggests that Djer was a capable military leader, engaging in campaigns that extended Egypt's control and influence. The Sinai Peninsula, for example, was crucial not just as a military buffer, but also as a source of precious minerals such as copper and turquoise. By securing this region, Djer ensured a steady flow of resources into Egypt, bolstering its economy and enhancing his own prestige as a successful warrior king. His military achievements likely played a significant role in consolidating his rule, suppressing potential rebellions, and ensuring that Egypt's borders were secure from foreign incursions. The records suggest Djer's reign lasted for decades, and during this time, he made his mark in various ways. He likely established or expanded several temples and religious sites, promoting the early Egyptian pantheon and linking his rule with the divine favor of the gods. This wasn't just a matter of personal piety. It was a powerful political tool. By associating himself closely with the gods, Djer strengthened his claim to divine kingship, a concept that would become a cornerstone of Egyptian ideology. Djer's commitment to religion and the gods was more than just a political strategy. It was also a reflection of the times. In early dynastic Egypt, religion was intertwined with every aspect of life, from governance to agriculture. The gods were believed to have control over everything from the annual flooding of the Nile, which was crucial for farming, to the outcome of battles. By emphasizing his connection to the divine, Djer reinforced the belief that he was chosen by the gods to rule, a belief that would become central to Egyptian kingship for millennia. But what of the man himself? Who was Djer beyond his titles and conquests? Ancient texts don't paint a full picture, but we can infer much from the evidence left behind. For instance, Djer is credited with several decrees and inscriptions, some of which hint at a leader who was not only interested in expanding his territory, but also in governance and administration. These documents suggest a ruler who was attentive to the practical aspects of ruling, issuing laws, organizing resources, and maintaining order across his kingdom. It's in these small details that we begin to see the emergence of a centralized state under his guidance. There are also traces of Djer's personal life. Archaeological evidence indicates that he was buried in a tomb at Abydos, one of the most important early royal necropolises. His tomb was substantial, filled with grave goods that suggest wealth and status, but also a belief in an afterlife that would require material comforts. The tomb itself was part of a larger complex that would influence later Egyptian burial practices, a precursor to the grand tombs of later pharaohs, such as the pyramids at Giza. Interestingly, there is also some evidence that points to Djer's involvement in medicine, or at least an interest in healing. A document known as the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which dates to a much later period, mentions Djer in a medical context. While it's difficult to say exactly how much of this is myth and how much is fact, it suggests that Djer may have had a reputation, at least in later centuries, as a figure associated with medical knowledge or healing practices. The notion that Djer might have been involved in healing is intriguing, as it suggests a ruler with a diverse range of interests, not just in war and governance, but also in the well-being of his people. It hints at a more nuanced picture of Djer, a leader who might have been seen not only as a warrior and king, but also as a healer, a figure who cared for both the physical and spiritual health of his subjects. Djer's reign was not without its controversies. Some scholars believe that he might have faced internal opposition, perhaps from local leaders or even members of his own family. The consolidation of power in a new dynasty is rarely smooth, and Djer would have had to navigate the complex dynamics of an emerging state, balancing authority with the need to maintain alliances. Yet despite these challenges, Djer's legacy is one of a ruler who began the work of turning a united Egypt from an idea into a reality. His reign marks an essential early chapter in Egypt's story, a chapter where the lines between legend and history blur, but where the foundations of one of the world's greatest civilizations were laid. After Djer, Egypt would continue to grow and evolve. His successors would build upon his work, expanding the boundaries of the kingdom, refining its institutions, and developing the cultural and religious traditions that we recognize today. But it is vital to remember that much of what came later had its roots in the reign of Djer. His story is a reminder that even in the earliest days of a civilization, there are figures whose impact resonates through the ages, whose actions set in motion events that shape the future in ways they could never have imagined. So, as we look back to the time of Djer, we are looking back to a moment when history itself was being written, when Egypt was not yet the Egypt of the pyramids and the pharaohs, but a new kingdom with all its potential and all its promise. If you've enjoyed this journey back in time, discovering the hidden histories and forgotten stories of our world's ancient past, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Historical Highway. There's always more to uncover, more to explore, and who knows what wonders we'll find next.